Hi, I'm Darren and welcome to New Factory Classics, and today we're going to talk about why Joker 2 failed. It's almost been a week since the disastrous release of Joker Folie à Deux. The studio can only hope at this point to try and break even with how much money they spent on this movie. Between marketing and filming, this movie cost 3.5 times as much as the original film. Now let me tell you a few reasons why this movie failed, and I'm going to do my best to not give any spoilers, in case for some reason you're interested in seeing this train wreck. Number 1. Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix didn't want to make this sequel at all. When the first movie came out, it was a surprise success for Warner Brothers. They were deep into the failure train that was the DCEU at that point. Those were plagued with horrible reviews and horrible box office revenues. When Joker was an actual success, I can only imagine how elated Warner Brothers must have been. The problem was that Joker was written as a one-and-done movie. Todd and Joaquin never imagined how much success the film would actually have, let alone trying to think of a sequel all the way back then. In early interviews, they clearly stated that they did not want to make a sequel for this movie. At the time, it went from no desire to make a sequel, maybe if we find a good story, okay, we're working on a story, okay, we have a story, okay, we're working on a script, okay, the movie's been greenlit. I don't think they ever actually wanted to make it though. I think the two of them were just tired of being constantly prodded by fans and by Warner Brothers to make a sequel to the first movie. And they finally got tired of hearing all those questions, so they said, fine, we'll do it, but we're going to kill the franchise in the process. Number 2, they didn't even want to work with DC. The movie literally begins with no DC logo. There's also none of those animated logos where it looks like it's flipping through a comic book and the characters are coming alive. It just starts out. I imagine Todd Phillips didn't even want this to be considered a DC Elseworlds film. It was his Joker movie, his Joker series, and nobody else's to talk about. In response, James Gunn barely even spent any time promoting this movie. In fact, most of his time is being spent promoting that really depressing Christopher Reeves documentary coming out. This needs to be noted though, the Penguin and the Batman series are completely different. DC is heavily involved with those movies. And I imagine Warner Brothers and James Gunn have a really good relationship with Matt Reeves. Number 3, this was never supposed to be a Joker series. Let's be honest, when the first movie was explained to be coming out, people weren't very interested. Heath Ledger had died less than a decade earlier, and we just had Jared Leto only a few years before this film. And all of a sudden, Warner Brothers came up to us and was like, another one. But don't worry, it's a story that's completely different than the Jokers you're thinking about. It's about a depressed guy whose life slowly goes down and eventually he kills a bunch of people, and yes, he will end up in Arkham. It does take place in Gotham, but he's not going to become the Joker you're thinking of. That's right, we were told from the start that he would never, ever become the Joker that you're thinking of. So why are we so surprised that he didn't become a normal Joker? And what about the Harley promise of this movie? And that was probably the biggest twist and honestly the pile of garbage that was thrown in our face. We're so used to a Harlequin that is barely wearing clothes, jumping around, dancing, absolutely in love with Joker, and is funny. Instead, we got a very depressed Harley who is always wearing drab clothing and is singing a cappella the entire time. And frankly, I don't even think she actually liked Joker. And finally, word of mouth is what's going to put this movie into the grave. The snowball is going full speed as we speak. Every person who sees this movie is telling people not to go see this film. I rarely tell people not to go see a movie, but I'll tell you this, if you haven't seen it, you probably shouldn't, especially if you like the first one. And even further, I wish I could go back in time and unsee this movie, because to be honest, it absolutely ruined the first movie for me. So there you have it, 4 big reasons why Warner Brothers' bottom line is about to take a hit. So what are your thoughts on why Joker Folie à Deux failed? Let me know in the comments. Hey, thanks for watching my video. Please like, subscribe, and share. And while you're at it, leave a comment on my channel. I so desperately crave the acceptance of strangers online.